We've discussed the works of Czech writer and misanthrope Josef Karel Šlejhar in the past in episode 183, but today I thought we could cover two of his lesser-known works. First, in 1889, he published the collection Still Life. The Miser concerns a greedy old man who, during the outbreak of a horribly deadly plague, uses this as an excuse to kick out all his family, nearly kicking his dog to death, and to break the neck of the small bird kept as a family pet, so that he would not have to spend a single dime on their food and upkeep. He barricades himself in the house, observing his treasures at length, while the outside of his house is piled up with black mangled corpses. However, after he tears a cross from the wall in anger and throws it outside among the dead, one of them stands up and slowly comes to return it. Yumar Returns takes place in the mountains, and it concerns night watchman Yumar. He works at a textile factory where he gets barely paid. His wife is barely able to work due to her sickness, and he himself is being worked to death, having no rest during the day or night. One night he decides to leave, quote-unquote, killing himself in the forest, before, several months later, he returns, when his body emerges in the snow. The story goes in depth as to the misery of the factory workers, how they are paid lower wages in winter simply because they have no choice, or how the worst material is bought for the workers to use in winter simply because it is cheap. The story's mood is actually much more depressing than The Miser. The Vagrant recounts the narrator's acquaintance with Modrák, a man living in a tumbled-down house in a village full of hateful people who drown their sorrows in drink. Modrák is an extremely huge, powerful man who, when he does choose to work, overshadows everyone around him, which is one of the reasons the villagers hate him. Not that they need a reason. But then, in the middle of working, he will suddenly quit, leaving behind his work and his wife that hates him, and goes to wail and scream in the forest. In the end, he is found wailing and screaming in the graveyard, and the villagers don't offer him any treatment, but throw his body out of the graveyard so he wouldn't desecrate it by dying there. A Bar Story was published in 1908. It focuses on a dirty pub in the squalid back streets of an industrial town. The patrons are both from higher and lower society, but all have their own idiosyncrasies. Be it the old butcher, abandoned by his family when he could no longer support them, who is caught in a prison of his own mind, a tailor who annoys everyone with his patents and inventions, which no one cares for, a stove maker who stole his wife's rent money, or the topographer, whose wife openly cheats on him with a military man, only him not seeing it. However, the emotional crux of the story focuses on the woman's deformed son, who is constantly abused by her, in order that he would die, spending his days in the darkness beneath the stairs, besieged by rats, and yet ending up accepting his death as opposed to returning home, that being only one of a series of similar narratives in the story, which also include the story of the capture and imprisonment in a pet shop of a female hamster with her newborn litter. This story, rife with misery, betrayal, murder, and suicide, is one of Šlejhar's most oppressive. Both books are quite enjoyable as an exercise in the conte cruel, but the latter one is so miserable that I can see how some would find it quite heavy reading.